2005 Nissan Murano. Complaint is a misfire and lack of power. OBD2 direct. We're gonna display the trouble codes. I mean generic OBD2, and let's see here. I want trouble codes first. We have a random misfire, bank 1 catalytic converter, and then lean code on bank 2, P0174, and then let's go back. Okay, we're looking at some live data. We can see the these are wideband oxygen sensor lambda sensors. So they on the bank 2 and bank 1 they around 1, which is normal. And then yeah, in a closed loop, the bank 1 long and short term look pretty good actually. Long term on bank 2 and short term, that's actually essentially on bank 2 it's -10, but then we have a positive 9 on, so it's pretty much 0. So let's let it warm down. The downstream sensors on bank 1, this looks okay, and then on bank 2 that looks fine as well. So far I mean everything looks pretty good actually. Let's put it in gear. And so far, it's short term and long term. That looks fine. Since we are dealing with a possible lean code, let's go back and look at the trouble codes again. I think it's bank 1. Okay, so with a bank 2 that has a lean code, and that's the front bank. The bank 1 is the cylinder number 1 is next to the firewall. Random misfire, and then we have this catalytic system efficiency below threshold P0420 on bank 1. So I want to look next is actually a freeze frame. So every time we, of course we see the lean code or some sort, we want to look at the fuel trims first to see what's going on, if the fault is, if it's happening right now. And since I don't see anything, let's look at the freeze frame, and you see the short-term bank 1, long-term bank 1, it's actually right at the 0. Bank 2, it's actually 15. So this indicates there's a elevated fuel trim on this is where the code is coming from. And let's see what the bank 2, so that is a legit code. It's not a terrible fuel trim, but it is elevated 15%. April 27, and see what is the engine speed was 1500. It's a little bit over, of course, the idle speed, but not the full accelerated pedal was only 15%. Command was 18. So what is the engine? Is it fully warmed up? And vehicle speed was actually 54 miles an hour, so it looks like a cruising speed was when we had a code generated for the lean code. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull the same data and take it for a test drive and see if we can duplicate the problem. And so far car runs okay. The steering wheel shakes actually pretty bad. There's a large exhaust leak. Looks like it's a muffler, it's way in the back. Pretty nasty day today. So we're gonna do, we're just gonna kind of floor it a little bit and see the out of fuel trim at the wide open throttle. Accelerate actually excellent. As I said, this car had torn boot between the engine and the air filter before, and it was throwing all kinds of crazy codes. It was lacking in power. That seems to be okay. I mean, there's nothing else other than check engine light on. Okay, let's go. So we're gonna see right in here what happened. Let's just see this guy here, and so this is the bank one, and right at the wide open throttle, actually we were pretty lean, right? This is very, very lean, but this can be actually already decel here, right there. So we actually kind of look this area here where the wide open throttle is, and we were actually rich this whole time. We can see the 0.7. So anything 1 is 0 basically, and then anything below 1 is rich, above 1 is lean, and we can see everything is actually pretty rich. Now let's see the on the same thing on a bank 2. That looks okay as well. So there's no issue with the fuel trim or anything like that. So seem to be all were pretty good at the time when we accelerated. So yeah, so we're gonna look at this part here. So this is where we are going up with the throttle, and you know the RPM is 5,000, and our lambda sensor is reporting a rich condition because it's below 1.8 on bank 1 and bank 2, so that actually looks perfect. I don't see any other problem. I mean, I don't see anything there. The okay, so let's move that away, and then let's see the short-term bank 1 and long-term bank 1, and right at the open throttle we actually right there we are at the 0. So right at the open throttle, but there's one time that we had actually on the short term had a 25%, and that was right in here, and we accelerated once. It's kind of weird. Well, this time was okay. You can see, guys, I'm going to maximum is 25% at some point on the short term, and there was -10 on the long term, and look, that's right. It happened. Looks like right in here. Let's go to that area. Okay, I want to go here. There's a lot of spikes where the fuel trim went to 25%. You can see right there's 19%. Okay, so this is the decel, that's okay. But here, let's see, this might be, well, So we are at 2 grand, and we had a 20. That was a 20%. Sorry, on short term, and then minus 10 on the long term. So that's fine as well. So that's not an issue. Let's go here. I just on these peaks where we had these. I want to see what's going on. Okay, minus 10, 25. Okay, so that's fine. So let's go back to a bank 2. Actually, I had a lean code to see if anything is going on with the bank 2. Bank 2, long and short. So the maximum was 19, and then well, this looks fine as well. I mean, the maximum was 19, and then on the short, and 9 on the long term. But let's see. Well, that looks okay. I can't even see where the short term on bank 2 went to 19%. Let's try to see it. There you go, right there. Okay, so that's interesting. Right at the decel, the fuel trim actually went up, and the long term was 0. So this was a kind of weird. Where I don't know what to think about this. You would think you would actually take the fuel away during the decel, but it's just a short period of time you added some fuel, but not for too long. I mean, nothing really crazy. I mean, I don't know. I just can't see I cannot duplicate this lean code on bank 2 at all. I mean, so I just did one more wide open throttle, and I had my fuel ratio sensors, and right at the time when we are accelerating, you can see the RPM was 3400, and lambda sensor was 0.9 bank 1 and bank 2, and as we accelerate more, they are still staying. None of them are actually, and you can see that now it's actually going rich. The voltage is dropping down, the signal is dropping down, and now when we start decelerating, we're going into the lean due to a fuel, injector shutoff. So that is all normal. I mean, this is the part that we want to see, where this signal is actually going down, meaning that's a rich condition during the wide open throttle. So everything looks okay here. I don't see any problems. I don't really see excessive lean condition on the bank 2 as well, and car runs okay. So I don't really know what to think of this at all. So looking at the trouble codes, what I was actually thinking is happening here, it's maybe a plugged up exhaust on the bank 1, which would kind of make sense if we have this code, which is not of course always the code for a plugged up exhaust, but it could be where this catalytic converter does not work anymore on a bank 1. So I was thinking, if we have a plugged up exhaust on bank 1, then we're going to have the air that's supposed to go through this bank, it would go to bank 2, to opposite bank, and make the lean mixture. But I mean, your car runs okay. It's just slightly sluggish, but I mean, I would not expect to drive the car, 50-60 miles an hour with a plugged up exhaust. Now I did verify that during the wide open throttle that I do not have any fuel delivery problem, meaning the fuel filter, injectors, mass airflow sensor, that all looks okay. And it's really kind of that's what I was leaning towards, but seemed like that's not the case. And the fuel trim is good on bank 1 as well. I don't see any problems there whatsoever. So, okay, so I'm gonna fast forward this video a little bit. I could not duplicate the problem with the Misfire. The fuel trim looked okay, and so my trouble codes really didn't give me any directions at all. So I called the customer again. I told her, listen, I couldn't really duplicate the problem anymore, and you just have to drive it again and see if it, what's going to happen. And then she told me that during the Misfire, the battery light would come on, and I said, okay, well, let's. She was like, she pulled to the side of the road, opened the door, and a internal light was flickering, and the car lost power. Then they shut it off, and they waited a little bit, started up again, and it ran fine. Then it would start happening on and off, and then I turned the headlights on, AC on, and unfortunately did all that off camera. It was kind of late last night, and the light came briefly on. The brake light and the battery light came on the dash, and and that was it, maybe for like a couple seconds. Checked the charging voltage, was around 14 volts, 14.2, and then I did my check by checking the voltage drop between the battery negative and the engine block, and then a case on the alternator. That was fine. The voltage drop between battery positive and the post on the alternator was fine. It was 110 millivolts. I have done I'm sorry guys, I also did a ripple test. Ripple test was okay. I also did test with my battery tester. So I used Medtronic to test the charging system and the battery. Everything actually was fine. There was nothing wrong. The ripple was okay. The battery, the charging voltage was fine. The amperage was okay. And then I decided, well, I just have to check the I just gonna change the alternator. I mean, there's nothing else I can do. Again, I checked the cables, I checked everything. Everything looked out okay, and then I took the alternator out. So what I did actually, I have done this before without removing the AC pump, and it's a complete nightmare. It's very difficult to move the alternator between the block, between the engine and cooling fans. It's a complete nightmare. It's so much easier to remove it from the below, basically removing the AC pump. Luckily I got my recovery machine. That is a blessing. Now I can just easily recover my Freon and recharge it again. So anyhow, this is what I found. This is a remanufactured alternator, and look at these connectors here. I have never seen anything like it. I'm really confused because I'm not sure how did moisture get in it. I mean, I just don't know. It's kind of weird, but this sits on the top of the alternator anyway. And I worked on this car before, and this connect, so when the guy that replaced this alternator, I would say maybe a year ago or so, they kind of broke this connector. I got the replacement one, and you can see actually this was done by me. I replaced this connector maybe, I don't know, maybe 6-7 months ago. Now when I did this, I really couldn't see, I did not take the alternator out. I basically pulled the connector out, resolder wiring and everything, and then plugged it back in. And I really didn't check what the alternator connector looks like. It's kind of sits here. It's really hard to see it anyway, but you can see how much corrosion is already built up on the connector itself. So I have to clean all that up. And so basically it was shorted out, and it's crazy how the alternator can cause a lot of problems, a lot of misfires, and when the charging voltage is faulty, all these modules are going nuts. So this was definitely an issue, and changing the alternator will take care of this problem. Again, I'm sure I did not film the process of checking the wiring. It's pretty simple. Basically, you want to make sure they got no voltage drop between the your casing and your block, and everything starts from the battery. Now I didn't really check any of the wiring at the alternator. These 3 wires here, I didn't really bother to check it because when I looked, I could see that it's actually a remanufactured unit. And I said, well, you know what, I'm just going to take it out and see what happens. So sure enough, it was completely corroded. I'm not sure how, but it is. Now I'm going to change this and they should take care of it. So the alternator is installed. Right now I'm going to pull the vacuum on the AC system and I'm going to refill it. The spec is 1.3 pounds. Now I got my hoses hooked up on the low and high side. They're open, and here on the keypad we got the, so let's just turn the units off. And now I'm gonna, when I turn the unit on, it's actually vacuum is gonna automatically come on. So I'm gonna open up the valves and just press vacuum, and it will start pulling the vacuum on. The vacuum pump is a little loud, but that's okay. So I'm gonna actually, I need to figure out how to program this for 45 minutes. On this, yeah, I'm gonna do 45 minutes. I'm just gonna do 3 times by 15 minutes. I'm gonna repeat it 3 times. Shut the valves and look at the gauge, make sure that the system is sealed. And then once I'm done with that, then we're gonna go into the charging mode, set our charge, and fill it up. I had I pulled the vacuum for 45 minutes and waited another 10 minutes just to see if the gauge is gonna move. The gauges are fine. So at this point, what we need to do on this machine anyway, I have to wait until, if the pressure will equalize itself from the charging tank to the AC system inside the car, then it will no longer charge. It will no longer push the Freon into the system. At that point, what I have to do, I have to start the car, turn the AC on, and the AC pump will suck the rest of the Freon on. And we're at 80 psi right now. So we'll see what's going to happen here now. If that happens, the machine is going to beep, and it will let me know that I have to get back in the car, start it up, and then the AC pump is on. The machine had stopped beeping. You can see now we are getting the rest of the Freon in the system, and car sounds pretty good actually. We'll see if I mean, the alternator was a problem for sure. I'm not sure how the rust got in it. They did not clean the engine or anything, so I'm not sure how did rust get into that connector, but I'm glad I asked her, you know, what did she experience at the time of the misfire, and then she told me that brake light and the battery light was blinking, and sure enough, the alternator and the system is complete. And now we can shut it off. Looking good. 150 on the high side, 35 on the low side. It's good. After I finish charging system, I have to recover whatever it's left in a hoses. You can see it's 1.16 pounds, and every time I charge the system, I actually add 0.1 or 0.2 pounds to the amount that needs to be recharged in. So whatever it's left in the hose, it won't matter because it's already in the system. I always add a little bit to it. Like on this side, on this car I put 1.8. You can see the reason is because it's always something left in the hoses, and once you suck it back into the recovery tank, it measures 1.6. I mean 0.16 pounds. Okay, everything is done now. Car runs good. I'm going to leave it at this, and most likely check engine light is going to come on because of the catalytic converter, the P0420. Honestly, I was thinking maybe we have a plugged up exhaust due to the fact that we had a ring condition on the, it was a bank 2, and then a catalytic converter code for bank 1 catalytic converter P0420. I was thinking maybe those two are connected. Again, I couldn't find anything wrong with it at the time when I was test driving. It couldn't duplicate the problem, and then I told the owner, the girl, I said, you know what, I will just have to drive it again and see if it happens again. And then she told me that, you know, check the battery light was blinking at the time the fault was happening, and I did turn the AC and the blower to full speed, and the battery light came on just very briefly, maybe a couple seconds, and went off. I could not duplicate the problems, and then I checked all the battery, voltage drop from the positive to the battery cable, positive battery cable from the ground to the battery to the alternator case. All that was okay, and then I decided to remove the alternator. Sure enough, there was a corrosion. How did moisture get in? I have no idea. I cleaned up the connector on the harness side and put some dielectrical grease, and this should be taken care of. It should be fine. The undercharging voltage or overcharging voltage can really mess up the modules. They can go crazy, and they should fix it. Alright guys, see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.